If I needed to drop 5% body fat within 6 weeks without losing muscle, this is the exact roadmap that I would follow. Now, before we get into the actual roadmap, something that we need to clarify is exactly what we are trying to achieve. Because realistically, you want to look good. But to look good, you want to maintain as much muscle as you possibly can. So the goal isn't to lose as much weight as possible. The goal is to get visible abs whilst retaining as much muscle as possible. And I'm confident that you can make a meaningful shift within 6 weeks, not only because I have done so myself multiple times, but I have done so with numerous clients. Now, before we dive into the actual roadmap, we need to establish why most men fail and what you are probably doing wrong that is making this process a lot harder than it needs to be. Now, the number one reason why most men fail is that they don't understand what their actual calorie baseline is. If you don't actually understand how many calories you are naturally burning and how many calories you are burning through activity, how in the world are you meant to be eating the right amount of calories? And if you don't have your figures right, you are more than likely either not in a calorie deficit when you think you are, or you are dieting way too aggressively. And another really common misconception is that as soon as you start cutting, you should start just slamming cardio, and that is not the play. I'll explain why later. And finally, just making adjustments based on feelings rather than science and figures. Like, don't get me wrong, you can get away with vibes-based dieting, but when you're doing all of these other things wrong, you're bound to burn out and then feel like, what's the point? This all fucking sucks. I'm quitting. Or maybe you go too aggressive and then you start losing a bunch of weight that you don't actually want to be losing. You lose a bunch of muscle and then you're like, oh shit. But I'm going to show you exactly how to get lean the right way. So onto the roadmap. So there's actually a 7-step framework that I take all my clients through that I will take you through now. So number one is always going to be establishing the baseline. This is where we're going to get all your figures right and set you up for your cut. Step two is going to be creating your calorie deficit, which is sustainable. Why this is important is because the goal is not to just cut for a week or a week and a half and then go way too hard and then burn out and then you lose. We're looking for a sustainable deficit that you can also maintain muscle with. Speaking of which, in step three, we are going to be covering how you protect your muscle and ensure you keep as much muscle as possible. And this part is so key. I've made this mistake before where I go way too hard, came out of a calorie deficit, looking a lot fatter than when I went into it because I lost so much muscle. So protecting muscle, very important. Step four is going to be about hitting your daily steps. Now, this one is huge because the key to a sustainable calorie deficit is low intensity cardio. It's not the high intensity running or whatever else. Now, step five, this one is huge for making your life easier rather than harder. This is about controlling your environment and designing it in a way where it makes it easier to achieve your goal than having to fight uphill. Now, for step six, this is all about getting the right mindset and identity to make this a long-lasting, long-term change rather than just a quick fix diet that will only last temporarily. This is how you're going to be keeping these results rather than just getting shredded for a week. And finally, step seven is about taking all the data that you get and how to adjust accordingly. All right, so establishing your baseline, this is going to be the foundation of everything you do. So you want to get this right. You want to get these numbers right. When it comes to calculating your maintenance calories, what this is comprised of is your BMR, which is your base metabolic rate. This is how many calories you burn just from existing, times by your activity level, which ends up giving you your TDE, which is total daily expenditure. This figure is going to be really key because this is your baseline maintenance calories. But I'll have a free resource linked in the description that will help you calculate all of these things. Now, you've probably heard of counting calories. Counting calories is essentially just counting how much energy you are intaking via food and how much energy you are expending via exercise and activity. But the good news is you don't have to count your calories forever. Now, what I mean by this is I highly recommend you at least count calories for a little bit of time. Because the truth is, most men completely underestimate the amount of calories they are eating and overestimate how active they actually are. So the good old, I'm eating pretty clean. If you saw the actual numbers, it ain't looking good, chief. So what I recommend is track everything for 7 days. This way, you're gonna get a bit of an idea on how much is actually in the food that you are eating and how much you are actually burning on a day-to-day. And just that base level of knowledge is going to set you up for the long term. Now, weighing yourself daily. Now, this does not mean to take it all too literal, because in reality, your body weight will fluctuate a fair bit from day to day, but there is a lot more than meets the eye there. There is a lot of water weight fluctuation. Don't worry about all of that. What I want you to do is weigh yourself every day, but then just take the weekly average. So weigh yourself from Monday through to Sunday, and then on Sunday, take your 7 weigh-ins, add them together, divide them by 7. That is your weight for the week. And then you're going to keep track of that, and that is the important figure. So just remember, if you were not keeping track of these numbers, you are guessing. Now down the line, that can actually be okay because you'll probably have an educated guess because you have tracked these things in the past. But we need to establish your baseline, so you at least need to do it for a bit. Now, step 2, actually creating the sustainable calorie deficit. Now, the most common thing with anyone trying to get lean is you get super motivated, you want to get lean, you want to get shredded, you want to look good ASAP. Now, the issue with that is, as I mentioned earlier, people go out way too hard. They go on way too hard of a cut and way too hard of a calorie deficit. And not only is this unsustainable because you will hate life, but also because your body really fights back against this. Your body is going to do its best to offload what is using all the energy. So that means trying to offload your muscle. And your body is going to do its best to try get you to burn less by moving less. So in a really harsh calorie deficit, your body is naturally just going to get you to feel really tired and want to sit down, want to lie down, want to sit on the couch, want to not actually be that active. So your body really fights against it if you go too harsh. And then eventually it can actually mess with your base metabolic rate. So anyway, you don't want to go too harsh. Instead, you actually want to be around a 250 to 500 calorie deficit. Now, what actual figure you should go for really depends on your current body fat percentage and your starting point. Generally speaking, you can go a little bit harsher the higher body fat percentage you are, whereas you don't want to be on as much of a deficit the leaner you are. But the specific figures actually really do vary from person to person. But generally, if you are within the range of 250 to 500 calorie deficit, that is a good place to start. You can always ramp up, start at 250 as you're getting used to it, then jump up to 500 as you get used to it, or vice versa, start high, come down lower as you get leaner. All of those adjustments will make sense later in step 7. So when done all correctly, this will lead to about a 0.3 to 0.7% of your body weight loss per week. So if you were 100 kilograms, that would be you're losing 0.3 to 0.7 kilograms per week. And I know that might not sound like too much and you want to lose a lot more quicker, but you got to keep your eye on the end goal that you're trying to look good and we want to maintain your muscle. So we don't want to go too aggressive. Now, speaking of maintaining your muscle, to do so, we want to keep your protein intake high. Now, you're going to see a lot of figures of how many grams of protein per kilogram of body weight or pound of body weight online. The actual figure really varies on your current body composition. So generally, if you're leaner trying to cut down, you actually want your protein intake to be higher, whereas if you are at a higher body fat percentage, it doesn't need to be as high. You just get a bit more leeway. But either way, high protein is good. Keep in this range of 1.8 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight. Now we're going to come back and reassess all the figures of how large of a deficit and how much protein you should be intaking. But generally, you want to be adjusting this every 14 or so days, every 2 weeks. You don't want to be adjusting all the time because then you never get into a rhythm. But anyway, we'll get more onto that in step 7. Now, let's talk a little bit more about how we're going to protect your muscle. So we already have a bit of a giveaway here. We got, you can probably see, dumbbell protein, sleep, all of which is going to be very important. Now, the reason why this is so important is, as I said earlier, when you're in a calorie deficit, your body actually wants to offload your muscle. So you need to give as strong of a muscle building signal as you possibly can to your body. Think about sending the signal to your body that, hey, we still need this muscle. We cannot get rid of it. And there are 4 main ways that you are going to send those signals. Firstly, you need to continue doing resistance training. So keep going to the gym 3 to 6 times per week is great. Another common mistake is people say, oh, I start cutting, so I'm going to do more cardio instead of weights. Okay, great. Say goodbye to your muscle. The second important thing is that you are training hard. As I said before, it is an uphill battle. You're already running on limited energy, so even just being able to lift the same amount of weight that you usually can, that is hard. So when you are in the gym, you need to be training hard. And I'm gonna tell you straight up, you've gotta anticipate that there will be days where you don't feel like it. There definitely will be these days because you inevitably won't have the energy more often than not. So it is still okay if you have an off day where you're not feeling it, but you still get into the gym. That is the most important thing. You're still going. But if every session starts to feel like, oh, I need to have a lighter session today, that's an issue. Very normal in a calorie deficit, but you got to keep an eye out for it. Ideally, you're still going to be staying within 1 to 3 reps of failure. So here that stands for reps in reserve. So I'm not saying you have to go to actual failure, but you should get pretty damn close when you are lifting. So you best be lifting like you want to hold on to this muscle. Now, the third signal that you're going to be sending is by protein intake. I probably don't have to tell you that high protein is a good muscle building signal. So here's another fun fact for you. Protein actually takes more energy to digest, so simply eating more protein actually just naturally burns more calories than, say, carbs or fats. So there's a little fun fact for you. And finally, signal 4 is good sleep. Now, I'm definitely not the first person to tell you that sleep is important and that you should try to get 8 hours a night. But sleep is actually incredibly important when you are cutting. As I said, it's an uphill battle. You gotta remember that your muscle is actually rebuilt mostly while you are sleeping. If you are getting poor quality sleep, there goes your opportunity to not only build muscle, but just hold on to the muscle that you have. Instead, you're tearing down your muscle and not repairing it. And even beyond the factor of trying to protect your muscle, sleep is so important on a cut and a calorie deficit because your body is already fighting really hard. So you want to avoid making the process harder on yourself. So I would actually recommend 8+ hours if possible. And the last little thing you'll see down here is not to sacrifice strength for cardio. Now, this is actually such a common mistake. As I said, people always want to bump up their cardio to get themselves in a deficit. And that often comes at the price of your strength work. Not only is this reducing your muscle building and muscle retaining signals, but also this is just stacking onto the fact that you're probably going too aggressive as well. And it just increases the signal for your body to get rid of your muscle. Okay, moving on. Step 4, hit your damn steps daily. As I said earlier, bumping up your cardio and going crazy on the cardio is going to make the process harder. Steps, on the other hand, aka walking more, this is low intensity cardio. Now, there's two main reasons why low intensity cardio is way better for your cut. First of all, high intensity cardio, like going for a quick run, this spikes hunger. You go for a hard run and all you're thinking about afterwards is eating a nice, chunky, delicious meal. And I get it because I feel that way after every single run I do. So I often end up eating all the calories I just burned and more. And you probably are too. So not only does low intensity cardio not spike hunger, but it is also easier to space out throughout the day. So this brings us back to the idea of staying active and avoiding sitting for long periods of time. Now, this actually matters more than you think, spacing out your activity across the day. And I'll tell you from personal experience, I got into the habit when I was really struggling with a cut. I would work out for maybe 2.5, 3 hours in the morning. I'd do a gym session and then a long run after that. And I'd be like, sweet, that is my activity done for the day. And my body would be exhausted. So I would just crash on the couch or at my desk for the rest of the day. And that literally became a habit. So even on the days when, let's say I'm just training for maybe like an hour in the gym, that's still stuck. And I ended up just not moving for the rest of the day. Whereas you're way better off spreading it out. Just walk around, man. Ideally aim for 8 to 12K steps per day. If you can hit 8, awesome. If you can hit 12, your cut is going to be a breeze. All right, moving on. Sorry to be blocking the fridge here, but this step is all about controlling your environment. So as much as this step seems like it is going to suck all the fun out of your life, this is all about actually making your life easier rather than harder. What I mean by this is your environment is either going to make it easier for you to stick to your cut, or it's going to make your life a lot harder and essentially set you up for failure. So fun fact, every environment, every room is designed for a specific behavior. Your living room is designed for relaxing. You got your couch, you got your TV. It is designed to encourage you to relax. Your office is designed for you to work. You have your desk, you have your laptop, you might have some books. Stepping into your office encourages you to do work. And same with your bedroom. You got your bed there. It is designed for you to sleep. Now, this same principle can be applied to any environment. If we go back to the fridge here, if it is filled with these no-no foods that are going to put you further away from your goals, every time you open your fridge, you have to fight against the urge to eat them. If your fridge is filled with all of this goodness that puts you closer to your goals, you are going to be encouraged to stick to your goals. Think out of sight, out of mind, or inside, in mind. Now, I personally don't believe that a good diet will be built around restriction, but that is a whole nother topic for another day. If creating a diet that you actually look forward to eating sounds interesting to you, let me know in the comments and I will make a video about it. But anyway, I probably don't have to tell you to remove junk food. You already know that. Now, I want to talk about pre-portioned snacks. Now, a practical example of what I mean is a bag of chips is going to be way worse than a chocolate bar. And that is solely for the reason of portion control. The issue with the bag of chips is when you reach your hand into the bag, you have a chip, you have one, and then you just want more. And tell me the last time you ever got a bag of chips and then, like, I don't know, had like 3 of them. No, usually you'll just keep reaching your hand into the bag until the bag is empty. Whereas with the chocolate bar, it's a chocolate bar, you eat it and then that's that. Like, let me blow your mind real quick. Okay, bag of chips, right? This bag of chips is actually 8 servings. Just this bag, right? This is a standard sized bag of chips. And let's be honest, you usually go through one of these bad boys in one sitting. Now, yes, I would love this snacking concept to be applied to in a healthy concept, like go eat an apple, man. But the sad reality is that it applies in a healthy context too. Like, for instance, nuts are a healthy snack, right? They're high in protein, right? Yeah, they're like 40% protein, 60% fat. They're actually really calorie dense. Anyway, I have this jar of nuts. And this was my absolute downfall a few years ago. I was trying to carb, I was snackish, so I was like, oh, I'll just snack on some nuts. And the issue is, I'd get into this jar and I would just start snacking. Put my hand back in the jar, snack. Oh man, it's good. Man, I need to stop myself. Anyway, my point being, if I just got this jar and just pulled it over to the couch, I could smash through like all of these, no worries. But you don't even want to know how many calories this is. Anyway, the whole point I'm trying to make is having defined sizes with your portions. So if you are going to have a snack, put it on a plate, put it in a bowl, whatever, but set the portion size, go away, you can eat that and then move on. Don't come back for more. And then actually on that same note is eating defined meals. What I mean by this, so again, let's just say you've cooked up some pasta. Don't cook like multiple servings and then have all of it. Take the serving you want out of the pot, put it into your bowl, eat your bowl. That is your meal. So keep your meal sizes defined. Cool. Now on to step 6. This one is important for those of you who are in this for the long run. If you want to get into shape and then you want to get fat again, just skip this step. But for those of you that want to get in shape and stay in shape, this one's important for you. So I probably don't have to tell you that you shouldn't overeat or binge, but what I actually mean behind that is that the thing that leads to overeating and binging is playing for the short term. This comes back to everything we've already mentioned about going too aggressive, going too hard, too fast, and not playing the sustainable long game. The sustainable long game is all about tracking your actual figures, protecting your muscle, designing your environment in a way that makes it easier to stick to your plan and routine. And essentially what I'm getting at here is avoiding all or nothing cycles where you go all in, but it's for a week because you went too hard, too fast, and then you binge. We're trying to avoid those all or nothing cycles. Now, how to actually do this is all going to stem from the notion of consistency. You've definitely heard that word before. What it means in this context is applying the 1% rule to your bad days. Because I'd be lying to you if I told you you're never going to have bad days or hard days or days when the odds are just stacked against you and life feels a bit harder. What the 1% rule for your bad days means is out of all the new habits and routines that you are setting up, what is the 1% version of that you can apply on your bad days for it still to be a win? To keep moving forward and not fall off track. So what I mean by this, let's say usually you train 4 days per week and you wake up one day and you're really not feeling it. The 1% would be to still just go to the gym, have a lighter session, but you still show up. See, continuing to show up is the important thing here because you maintain the habit. A lighter session in the gym does not mean you've fallen off the wagon. Yes, I said you want to train hard, but falling off the wagon, it would be not even showing up. And the same thing can be applied to what you eat. Maybe you have a cheat meal, but you don't fully fall off the wagon and just binge everything and say, screw it. Because the fundamental thing that is going to keep you in it long term is not missing twice. You can screw up one day, but it is usually the second day that actually makes you fall off the wagon for good. You can stuff up and overeat one day, but then if you take that and be like, oh, well, I guess I failed. I'm just going to go back to my old ways. And then, the day after that, be like, okay, well, I guess we just eat whatever now. That's when you fail. But if you overeat one day, I messed up there, and you just go back to eating how you're meant to be the next day, one day isn't going to ruin everything. Just get back on track. Don't miss twice. And finally, step 7, this is all about adjusting with the data that you collect. So rarely do you actually just get all your figures at the start and then just stick to those. You do actually adjust along the way. Now, I recommend reviewing every 14 days. Again, because you don't want to be shifting too often, but you do want to be adjusting to refine your process. And you're largely going to be making these refinements based on your energy levels, your changes in weight, and then also just generally how you feel. If you feel great and your weight is dropping, keep as is. If you feel great, but your weight is not dropping, you might want to tweak your calories. Whereas if you're feeling exhausted and really lacking energy and your weight is dropping really fast, you're probably going a little too heavily. So again, you're going to tweak your calories or maybe your activity level. Generally speaking, you're going to make smaller adjustments within maybe 100 to 200 calories, whether that is intake or expenditure, but more often than not, it's going to be intake. But again, this all varies based on how you are feeling. Another important factor is that there's going to be water versus fat fluctuations. So when you go into your calorie deficit, expect more fluctuations for that first week as your body adjusts to this new level. But these fluctuations usually are a lot more to do with water weight. So don't overreact to them. As you follow further down the process, that's when it's going to start being a bit more fat loss. So there's actually a lot more to consider with these review points, but I don't want to overcomplicate it for now. But at the end of the day, if you've done all of the previous steps correctly and you followed along, you're going to need to just trust the process and adjust accordingly. The worst thing you can do is react emotionally, especially early on, because you've got to be expecting these big fluctuations. It's really normal. So if you go through and apply all of these steps and you are patient with the process, you absolutely can see seriously meaningful results within 6 weeks. Now, I'm not saying you're going to turn into an absolute Greek god within 6 weeks, although if you're already in pretty good shape, maybe you will. But you absolutely will be losing body fat, retaining muscle. That's the important one. If you are trying to look good, remember, protect your muscle. You'll be seeing more visible abs, because one of the main keys to getting visible abs is lowering your body fat percentage. And whether you realize it or not, if you follow this process, you will be building discipline. So just to reiterate, step 1, establish your baseline. Step 2, create a sustainable deficit. Step 3, protect your muscle. Step 4, hit your steps daily. Step 5, control your environment. Step 6, install the Underdog identity. That is our identity over here. And step 7, adjust with data. Now, if you have found this helpful at all, I've put this entire roadmap into a free downloadable resource inside my community. If you want the PDF and the full breakdown, join with the link below. And if you just want all of this fully structured and personalized for you, comment lean protocol below. Woo!